Hello and welcome back to Podcast with a K. I'm your host, Carla with a K. You're listening to WECS 90.1 FM, unless you're listening on Twitch, in which case, hello, hi, chat, I see you. Kelly, congrats on first. Abby, congrats on second. You're also maybe listening to this on Spotify or YouTube or wherever it is that you get your podcast. We are back for another week, and we have a returning guest. And, you know, I'm on a good little trail of bringing back all of the fan favorites. And honestly, I'm having fun because the fan favorites are usually my favorites too. I am here with the one, the only...
James from Black Barrel Records and The Inside Out.
And The Inside Out, whose new single you just heard. So, you know, we've gotten the intro, we've gotten the pre-talk before. If you want to catch those episodes, links will be wherever the description box is on your screen. But, James, welcome back. Thank you for being here. Tell us about this new single.
Thank you for having me, Carly.
Of course.
This single, I started out just messing around with some beats and rhythms in the studio, honestly, last year in the summer. So I wanted to release this last year, actually, but I didn't end up doing it. I wanted to sit on it and kind of make it a little bit more involved and, you know, work on it. I had to bring it to the band, have them approach it with any ideas they had. It was fun, but it really started off with just a cowbell and clapping. And since originally it was called We Don't Talk Anymore, and it was kind of more emo, and I was like, this isn't very fun. And and instead I was just I kind of want something that's just trying to say the same thing, but, you know, a little bit more upbeat. So I think we landed on something fun. It's got a nice earworm bop to it.
Oh yeah, it's definitely a little bit of a vibe. I was telling you earlier, I've had it on repeat almost all day, honestly. And I'm genuinely so impressed because it's a little bit different from, I think, what I'd come to expect from y'all, but in a good way. I feel like different but good is where everyone aims to be. And I think you pulled it off, especially for the summer. I am personally, as shamefully accepted elder emo, sad that we don't get that version of the song, but no one's saying we can't have a remix in the future.
I mean, maybe. I will say, leaning into, you know, where it's not as, you know, what's expected from The Inside Out, we have been leaning into more of that upbeat indie rock that ties into a lot of other influences I have, like Killers and Modest Mouse, instead of some of our last songs like Brand New and, you know, The Strokes and Citizen. So I'm kind of happy with the new direction for sure.
Well, Andy's a fan of the remix idea given by the all caps remix in the chat.
Nice.
Also, hi Andy. Guest appearances even in the chat.
I love it.
It's honestly, I think, a really good time for a song like this to come out, though. Like we said, summer, so the catchiness, the vibiness works, but you can kind of hear the emo influence still in there. Especially the Killers, I think, have a very clear presence here. It's very similar, guitar rhythm. You can listen to it. If you listen to the lyrics, you might get a little sad, but if you just want to vibe, you can just vibe. And I feel like this summer there have been a lot of and last summer honestly, but this summer specifically, there have been a lot of I guess kind of revival tours from other artists in this genre. So I think it's a really good time because you're amongst good company. You know, Pierce the Veil is touring, Sleeping with Sirens is touring, Simple Plan, 303, The Starting Line. I think All American Rejects are doing backyard shows at random houses. It's a good time to be putting out music like this.
Oh, for sure. No, I'm excited that our newer record is finally, you know, we're finally putting a bow tie on that. And
you said since last year y'all have been trying.
That'd be funny though.
please sell physical copies of the record with a bow tie.
Yeah, that'd be funny. I love the direction everything's going in. Over the winter I finished up writing a lot of the ideas for the songs, and John and Andy and I have been kind of solidifying what those full versions are going to be like the past few weeks. So we're going to probably waterfall another single and then just drop the whole record, which is kind of exciting. So
super exciting. And, you know, now that you can kind of see the light at the end of the tunnel, how does that feel? You know, like what has changed from the beginning when you were first trying to put this out to now that you're actually getting to do it?
I think that like going back to the roots of like our first single we dropped from it, which was Mr. Arrogant, which was super fun to write and work on with the band and everything. Like we tapped into something that I wanted to tap into more, that I had tapped into a little bit with our song Good Times.
Mm-hmm.
But the way the songs were written was a little different. Like Good Times I wrote way before this lineup existed, so I didn't get a chance to tap into that formula with everybody. And a lot of these newer songs I've been able to tap into that formula and just really crank up the notch, and just get some more songs that are very similar but also different, and each of them kind of brings their own like unique essence to the table.
Definitely. So, of the ones that you mentioned, would you say one of those is the one you're most excited for, or one that we don't even know is like about to exist?
I can tease the name of one that I'm very excited about, that we just finished recording everything for, and we're pretty much finalizing a mix for. It's going to be the next single, and it'll probably be the last single off the record. It's called Dancing with Ghosts. That one, I had a melody in my head in the shower, and it just hit me. I'm not even joking. And this was in December, and I just like, I just went into the studio literally the day of, wrote the vocals, came up with, the chord progression, everything, and showed it to the guys, and everyone was like, "Wow, that's awesome. Let's definitely work on that." So
this is it.
yeah, literally.
I love that. And I've asked you before, I think, whenever you're writing a song, do you approach it lyrics first, melody first, rhythm first? Like, what is the process? And y'all told me that it just kind of depends on who has the best idea at any given time. So, but there still also is kind of like a guiding kind of theme for the songs. So with that in mind, with this new album, what do you think is the guiding theme? Is it the lyrics? Is it the music? Is it just the general idea, vibe, concept?
I'd say for this record, it ended up being a nice half and half, where I will say that the newer last set of probably 5 to 6 songs, I've been able to approach it with that, like, formula that I think I've got down to in signs of what I like now.
Mm-hmm.
And obviously that'll get better and better over time, but those ones have all been vocals and lyrics at the same time, where I'm like, okay, I like these lyrics and I have the melody for the chorus in mind. I've been kind of working everything else around the chorus.
Okay.
Versus like some of the past songs, some of the other singles off the record, a lot of those were actually a mixture. Like maybe I had a guitar melody or something instead, and then wrote the music to that on the acoustic afterwards or something. So it's a nice half and half, I think.
I like that. There's lots to look forward to then.
Yeah, it's got a little bit of everything on it, I think.
Which is all we can really ask for.
Yeah.
And you have not just this coming up, you also have some shows coming up, I hear?
Yes. So for the Inside Out, we have the Battle of the Bands at Toad's Place in New Haven, Connecticut on June 19th. Definitely, I think we posted the link for that for tickets if you want to come see us. That should be one of our more fun shows to come out to this year. We also have another show at the Cellar on Treadwell in Hamden, Connecticut on July 10th with some other really cool bands. And we're playing in our hometown, downtown Shelton, for Celebrate Shelton, right at the Veterans Memorial Park on September 12th.
That's pretty cool.
And there might be a bunch of other dates in between those or not. I don't know yet. We're kind of going with the flow this year. So we'll see.
I like that, though. You're not burning yourself out. You're kind of taking things as they come. It's a good way to be. But even just these 3 shows that you mentioned are crazy. Just starting off with Toads, that's you're starting off on the right foot right there.
Yeah, we were supposed to play Toad's Place actually in 2020, right before the pandemic hit. So
is this your first time at Toad's since?
It's not my first time. It is John and Andy's first time. Ooh. So I'm excited for them. It's a fun stage to play on. I know they're going to have a blast.
Oh, yeah.
It's also our new guitarist Zach Apuso. It's also his first time, I think, playing Toad's Place as well. So it should be fun. I've played there a lot, and I'm excited to play there again.
Oh yeah, and your vibe fits Toads perfectly. You're going to be in the right place at the right time. And also Battle of the Bands is just fun in general.
Yeah. Yeah, it should
Very,
be
very
fun.
exciting.
It's nice to see bands like bring their all and just like really show what they got and everything. So
Oh yeah. Have you done
I'm
Battle of the Bands before? I think so, right?
I believe so. I don't remember the last time we did one, but I'm just happy to play a show. I'm not even treating it as a battle. I'm honestly just treating it as a really cool show to play.
Yeah. Everyone's going to be fighting to the death to have like the top spot and you're just going to be like, "Yay, we're on stage again."
Yeah, honestly, I'm just kind of viewing it as like it's a great venue. It's the bands we're playing with are fun, so it should be a great time.
When's the last time y'all were on stage?
We held our own Halloween party and show at the studio at Black Barrel on, I think, just around Halloween time.
Mm-hmm.
I don't even remember the date off the top of my head, but it was Halloween show. I was dressed as Patrick. It was great.
Amazing. Did y'all get to show off any new music then, or was it just still in the works, or were you hiding it from the public? A little bit of both.
No, so I think we stuck to some songs that were released because we had just had Zach Apuso join the group. He was filling in for us last year at the end of the year, and then like the beginning of this year, he kind of officially became a part of like the live group at least.
Right. And so how would you say that kind of influences your sound as far as live performance goes?
I think Zach Apuso brings an awesome energy to the table. I was used to working with him with his old group, Internet Tears, and it was just like every time he's in the room, he definitely brings some nice positive energy to the table.
That's awesome. Oh, we love to see it. It's always amazing whenever someone just clicks in a new space.
Yeah.
So speaking of Internet Tears, that actually brings me to our other talking point, Black Barrel Records.
Woo!
When last we spoke, this was not a thing, so this is going to be the real meat of this conversation.
Very cool, very cool. Yeah, happy to chat.
So tell me this story. How did you, first of all, end up with a record label, and where did that idea even come from?
So I wouldn't word it as ended up with a record label, but I would say worked. This was always one of the goals for me as an artist, was to just kind of really be able to represent myself in a lot of aspects. It's not to say I wouldn't sign with a bigger label if they wanted to come along, but at least like on the business side of things and music business, like, we are represented, in a very, formidable and professional way. And I'd love to be able to help other artists out and everything like that. So like last year we tested it out with an artist, Internet Tears. We did a 1-year contract with them. Contract ran up. It was a great time. I thought, those guys are really talented. Now this year we signed Mars Hendrick, and he's been releasing some kick-ass music, and definitely excited to keep releasing his music, and just overall really talented musician. So I'm excited to work with more artists in the future too. We're super small. We're dipping our toes in the pond and seeing if we like the water.
I think, honestly, even just here, you're doing great. We've gotten to speak to both Internet Tears and Mars Hendrick on the show. And honestly, I think what's most impressive is that you each have a very unique sound. Most recently, of course, we talked to Mars, who we'll talk about later because I have questions. But just in the difference between how you talk about your music versus the music that you put out, it's so cool to see y'all kind of working in any way collaboratively together, whether it's on music or just representation. And at the same time, y'all have kind of like a certain energy, which I think I like, which is kind of like what you were saying about Zach being a part of the Inside Out now. Like, you have the same energy, and so the music kind of just is the bridge there, because the energy is kind of what carries the project.
Yeah, that's a great way to put that for sure, Carly.
Definitely. So what I want to know is, you're not viewing it as you ended up with it, right? Like this is something you worked for, this is something you wanted. What are some goals then? Where do you see this going? Because it's been a year.
Yeah.
You've passed that 1 year mark. Now you've kind of got that experience under your belt. Like, what have you learned? What have you done right? What could you maybe do better?
Yeah.
What's that year taught you?
For sure. I mean, that year has taught me personally a ton when it comes to, trying to be an advocate for a band and an artist, and the way I want to work, our actual agreements moving forward, and, quote unquote deals going forward and everything like that with artists. I think one of the biggest things for me is like, and I've always done it, but I guess you can always be better. You should never be like, I'm already the best at that, because obviously we're not. But just really communicating what's expected and what's not expected as a small label. When we sign an artist, we're their teammate. We're not their be all end all to fame. That'd be awesome. But really, we're supposed to be a teammate and advocate for them, and that's how I always wanted to do the label. And I think that's how we're still going to go forward with it. Just in a few different ways after learning our ups and downs last year, even with our own project, The Inside Out, and with Internet Tears. But a lot of good too, for sure. A lot of things we did really well, I think, of just handling things. And I love Erica as a part of our team, and Joya Communications. She's fantastic as our publicist for us and for our artists. And her and I regularly have meetings about how we can always improve. So I'm excited. Yeah.
What do you think is the biggest challenge for a small label? Because, there's, I think, from an outside perspective, a certain, I guess, like beauty and degree of wholesomeness to being a small label and wanting to be a small label. And like you said, like there's, something to be desired to wanting to be an advocate for the little guy, right? For the new guy, for the underdog. So, those all being the positives, what are some of the challenges you face?
So, I mean, some of the challenges we face are realistically, one of the big things, like we're a self-funded label. We don't have big investors and big capital. We're self-funded. We are your teammate. We work just as hard with you, as we're working, aside you. And I think like one of the big things with small labels is like you're either working really hard and you're grinding, or you've got a big capital count and you're just burning money, but you're not working as hard. I think there's a fine balance to working with that. As far as the music business label side of things go, I think that's one of, obviously, money does make the world go round, but so does like actually caring about the art and putting your work towards it as well. And I think they actually go just as far together, especially when you're a small label trying to build a community also.
Of course. I feel like community is definitely a part of what'll drive a new project, right? Like if you have a good group behind you, you can make it anywhere. If no one's behind you, then it's going to be a little harder.
Right, exactly. And like, you could start super small, and you could start, with, pretty much just like a small little bubble of friends and have an idea, and you can make it blow up. And that's totally awesome. And for us, like what we started with as Black Burl was like, I wanted to give bands a place to play shows. So we opened up our live room and we hosted a ton of different shows. And I never canceled a show, even though I knew it was going to be a small turnout. I never, let bands leave completely empty-handed, even though it cost money out of my own personal pocket. And sometimes, like, looking back at that, I'm like, why did I do that? But then also at the same time, it's like, because I care about the musicians that are like in the community. I care about like, building this place up into like I said, advocate for all musicians, but also like building our own community of what Black Barrel stands for and everything.
And I feel like it'll also just be a good story for them once they make it big. They're like, we started out and, James gave us $20 out of his own pocket.
Yeah, and you always get bands that are like, what do you mean I'm not getting $150 for? I was like, well, there was 10 people here, so
right.
Why do you think you'd get that? but at the same time, like, a lot of those shows that we had here early on in 2022 and 2023, I honestly was viewing as more so just like fun things to do to spread our name. That like we finished building the studio and we're having events and we're having shows here, and it was really fun. It is honestly just fun to like, and also to hear from everybody in Connecticut that we had the best sound was also really reassuring.
And y'all do carry a big sound.
Yeah.
That's actually really cool, though. And that's honestly, it makes sense that would be where it starts, right? Because that's the first thing that an up-and-coming band needs, right? You need to play shows. Once you put your songs out, you got to get the word out there, and there's only so much that sharing a link from Spotify will do, right? But once you actually get people to start coming and seeing the vibes and seeing the energy and just, seeing that there's a person behind, Ableton, it helps a lot.
Yeah, exactly, yeah.
So,
For sure.
what would you say, now I'm curious, right? Like, seeing this as a performer, but also as someone who's now managing it behind the scenes, what is the biggest difference?
I think, could you rephrase your question? So you're saying managing what specifically behind the scenes?
So, for example, you're managing now you're managing this like live studio space, and you're also kind of like heading your own project, and you're also now representing other artists. Like, what is the biggest difference in your approach?
Time management. I talk to my wife about this every day, and sometimes I just need to honestly rant and vent my schedule to her to have it make sense. Because when I look at Google Calendar, I kind of like go like, what am I doing?
Right.
But at the same time, like, when it comes to like just being able to like vent through, like, okay, so from 8 to 5, let's say I'm doing internal stuff in the studio, more office type stuff, and maybe I'm doing post production, maybe I'm mixing a band that's just working on things in our recording studio, and they're not a part of the label, they're just working with me in the studio side of things.
Mm-hmm.
And then on those downtimes in between those sessions, I'm working on new music for the Inside Out, or I'm reaching out to venues on Mars's behalf, and I'm doing the booking, and there's a lot of different stuff. And I think one of the things I learned last year specifically was along with the financial side of things, there's also a fine line between trying to delegate things and then also having those things done right, though. I tried with a couple people last year to help with booking and things like that, and booking shows is as much of an art as honestly playing music, and I don't think people understand that. But maybe they do. But a lot of musicians think it's as easy as snapping your fingers. Oh, give me a show. It's not.
It's the art of negotiation. There's the art of scheduling. It's the art of a lot of things.
It's honestly everything encapsulating into an event too.
Yeah.
And also making sure the event goes smoothly. So that's probably one of the biggest things, just referring back to your other question too, that like going forward is just like knowing when to delegate and knowing when to not, and really honing in on those different aspects of what it is to manage all those different aspects of the music business that I've taken on. And I love playing music. I don't foresee myself stopping anytime soon. I also love recording music, and I love helping other artists out. So kind of whichever hat I need to wear for that is what I'm doing.
I was going to ask if you had a preference to the things that you do, but it sounds like there's something to love with all of it.
Yeah, every day is different. Honestly, literally every day is different, and I do love what I do. And it's rewarding, and the busier things get, the more it's financially rewarding as well.
Oh yeah.
Which is always good too, because then I get to actually do this for a living, and there's a lot of hard work that went into being able to make that a reality, and definitely can't own all the credit. Friends and family definitely contributed to that. Absolutely.
Which is super, super inspiring. It's always good to have a good support network, and you have that with your band, you have that with your friends, with your family, and with your fans. It was always really cool to see you guys post something and people immediately be like, "Oh my god, new stuff!"
For sure, it was great hearing you had the song on loop all day. That's great.
Oh yeah. Hopefully Spotify gives you those cents that they pay all the artists, but that's a different conversation.
Yeah, it's like 4/1000th of a cent.
Right. But if I have it on loop for 4,000 days, then we can do the math on that.
I think that's like a Dunkin' coffee right there.
At that point, honestly, Spotify should just sell Dunkin' gift cards, and that's about it.
They just give you a Dunkin' gift card.
That's your paycheck.
They just send bands Dunkin' gift cards from now on. Honestly, that would give us enough energy to write more music.
That's true. Yo, Spotify is sleeping on this
their
collab.
system more.
Right. See, there you go. That's the scheme right there. We'll pitch this next.
For sure.
So, side note kind of question. Why Black Barrel Records? What does that mean?
So I want to say like there's a really obvious answer to this, and then there's also like the like it hit me afterward kind of thing too. But
let's hear both.
Jameson Black Barrel Whiskey. That's a really obvious answer, but like I was actually at a bar with my buddy Nathan, who ran Sage Sound Studios in Shelton, Connecticut, which I helped build, and they recently closed down. Unfortunately, they had a lot of serious vandalism that happened. Unfortunately,
dang.
And but years ago, him and I want to say like 2019, maybe 2018. Him and I were actually sitting at the bar, and we were like, drinking, talking about music and the future and everything. And him and I always had really big ideas and stuff. When I was working with him at his studio, and it was really cool, just like chat with him and stuff. And I saw like they had like this newer like bottle of Jameson on the shelf. It was like Jameson Black Barrel, and it looked really fancy. And I was like, Jameson's not that fancy. What's this about? So, I honestly like, I got an old, what was it? I just got a shot of it, and it was really good. It was really strong. And, but it was like, also it tasted different than regular Jameson. And I thought, well, I didn't really think much of it until like, I want to say a few months later, I was like working with this other band, and I was like, well, I have to release their music under something. And I started thinking about like ideas, and that was the first one that came to me. I don't know why. Other than that, maybe I was at that bar again. I don't know. But it made me like think of like the regular things that like are average can have like a finer taste to them if you really like think about it. And if you really put like extra effort towards it and things like that. So like I was thinking about something like Jameson, like people drink that all the time, and I was like, people listen to music all the time, but like every once in a while, maybe they have something a little bit finer tasting. So that's kind of what I was trying to go for with Black Barrel when I thought of it.
I like that. That's a good story, and also kind of a good message. Which, not to mention, there's a little bit of your own name in that too.
Yeah, a little. Well, yes, but that one's even more obvious, right? But it's not Jameson Records, so
right. You went with the subtle touch.
Yeah. Yeah.
So let me backtrack for a second. You said you helped build a studio.
Yeah. So actually, a few actually now at this point. So one of the things I did with Nathan was I helped build his studio out. Back in 2016 through 2018, we kind of renovated his studio. It was fun. We showed up with sledgehammers, knocked walls down, and there was like an actual studio there already. So that was extra fun because then we got to rebuild it, just make it a little nicer and everything. We fit it out for Atmos. It was really cool. And before that, though, I actually helped another friend build a studio out in his basement once, and that was interesting, putting the flooring in for that and learning how to do like a few things like that here and there. We turned like a house into a studio in like West Haven, and it was cool. So I had a little bit of like, knowledge of it already, but then like I really like went into it with Nathan's project. And then what was really cool after that was, talking with my partner, Zach. At the time when we were working at Sam Ash and the pro audio side of things, we would talk about building our own studio all the time. So eventually left Sage, and we literally built Black Barrel also. So that was really cool. And then we actually built a studio in Havoc's basement too, from Mob Deep, which was really cool. That was a project we took on our side business we started as custom integrators. So that
That's
was
pretty
really
sick.
interesting. If you need a recording studio, I definitely know how to build that for you.
Can build a studio, can represent you, can write you some songs, whatever you
Yeah,
need.
yeah.
So, how is that even a skill that you picked up? Did you just pick up a YouTube video? Did you already work in this space? How did that come to be?
I mean, honestly, I think it's like a mixture of like just a lot of different waves all crashing at once in a good way. Like, my father is very handy. He's an engineer. Always picked up different, things from him over the years as a kid to young adult to him actually being one of the ones that helped me, build out Sage and things like that. And, he helped put in our first wall we did at Black Barrel too. And then he was like, "You're doing the rest though."
In true
He's like,
dad fashion.
at that point he was like, "All right, I think you can figure this out at this point," and we did, and it was fun. And took a little longer because he didn't help, but still. So that was one of probably the biggest factors of me knowing what I was doing with that is just having somebody to actually guide me and teach me about those things.
Right.
Another thing too is just like learning all about like physics in school, about like what actually like you need to do for a room to have the right properties, like just learning about like the physics of music and everything like that.
Yeah. Super technical approach to it. I was going to ask too, were you already recording at the time? Like, did you already have an understanding of what you wanted in a studio? Or is this kind of like what fed that? Which came first?
Oh, when I was building Black Barrel, I knew what I wanted, and I knew exactly what to do. For the most part, there was a little bit of sandboxing there and kind of playing around because we had a big empty space, and we're like, what do we want to do?
Yeah.
Yeah, but at the same time, like I knew what I wanted to do, if that makes sense in a different wording.
Yeah. Well, whenever you're going through that process, right? Is this even still something you do? First of all, let me ask that.
Yeah. So I actually,
Okay.
just to put another wrench in the system here, but I do custom integration all the time, and we actually split off for Black Barrel. We made it an official separate company. It's called BBR Audio and Video.
Oh,
So
wow.
yeah, so we do a lot of different things. We do home theaters for people. We do, anything basic, but not to be an advertisement for that, but
No,
if you're
no,
in need,
please, by all
by all
means.
means, if you have a system that's broken, I definitely can help you out with that. But,
There is no shame in the promo here. This is the one
oh,
spot
yeah.
where all promo is truly shameless.
No, it's fun. I love being able to go to like people's houses, and it's truly custom because in custom integration, literally everyone's house is different, everyone's
Yeah.
system is different. Not everything is as simple as just plug in a sound bar. Sometimes,
Right.
oh, where's your power? Oh, where's this? Where's that? There's so many factors where it's like one little job of setting somebody's like living room, home theater setup can sometimes take a whole day just to like plan,
Right.
depending on what kind of setup they want. So it's kind of rewarding too to just like help people that really genuinely don't know how to set all that stuff up but want to enjoy it. So it's rewarding actually using my knowledge to help people with that too.
That's pretty sick. Which one do you say you get more kind of from? Like, just like, I'm assuming there's something to learn from every job, right? Like, you've done studios before, you've built your own studio, you're also doing just like any random form of AV in just in-home scenarios. Which one do you think teaches you more for the next project?
I think,
yeah.
yeah, I think that like it's a mixture. I think anything can be bigger. I'm not trying to put a ceiling on anything for myself. At least not yet. But I think that like one of the jobs my brother and I just did earlier this year was like this big home theater with a full blown Atmos setup. And one of the cool things I liked about that was like I knew all about Atmos because I built a recording studio control room that was designed to produce Atmos.
Yeah.
So I knew exactly how it should sound, and I knew exactly how to tune the room properly and design it for that customer of ours. And I think like they kind of all intertwine a little bit. They kind of all feed on each other. And that kind of goes for like we have a record shop, and as you saw when you visited, so we have like a record shop and a guitar repair too. So like even on the smaller scale side of it, like somebody just needing their guitar repaired and just having the know-how of dealing with like those walk-in customers is really useful for going to a house and quoting somebody's system that they have.
Right. That's actually really cool. All of your projects at first glance look like you have a lot of projects, but they all kind of feed off of each other.
Yeah, they're all intertwining and kind of singing with each other for sure.
Which one do you think is the one that you can see yourself sticking with for the longest? Like, eventually if something, one of them is going to take you from here to there and everywhere, right? Like, which one do you think that would be?
Ideally, I think my ideal goal, like if I was looking into the future, would be to take it one step further than a smaller recording studio and a home theater, and potentially designing a full-blown like venue, but like not like a small venue like a bar, but like a venue for,
like a proper like arena type, like
large
scale venue.
That definitely would be a goal for sure. designing an arena would absolutely be a goal. Maybe for my future self.
But the one step further version.
We'll start with like a normal like 1,000 cap venue or something first.
A cool little club sized venue with maybe like a balcony.
Something that I can have fun with, but have it last for a while.
Right. I feel like, man, it's super interesting, especially speaking to you now that you have these two projects specifically, with what you do with Black Barrel, both as a record label and as an AV company, and also like still having the Inside Out. I feel like it's such a cool like little opposite sides of the same coin, because I just know for a fact, like whenever you're sitting in a room, you're listening to something, there's got to be a part of you that's thinking, is this what it sounds like when I'm the one playing?
Oh yeah, for sure. No, absolutely.
How much does that bleed in, I wonder, like whenever you're talking to a customer and the customer wants one thing but you as an artist kind of know another thing?
I think that's something that I've gotten better with over the years, like, and that's something really important with like production, is knowing when to let an artist tell you to shut the hell up.
Sure.
Like you know what I mean? And that's whenever I have my consultations with anyone that's recording with me too, I'm like, communication's key. I've got a lot of great ideas, but please, if you don't want them, you don't have to use them. By all means, tell me to shut the hell up.
Right.
I'm here for you as an advocate. I'm here to give you my ideas and let you kind of bounce off of them and feed off of them too. And I think that's something that over the years I've gotten a lot better with. And it's definitely hard sometimes to kind of like hold that urge to be creative and throw my spin on things. But I think just like with anything, that control is like important, and that's kind of what creates that like the little bit of like progress with that.
Of course. And I think it's also good in that case that you have so many other creative outlets, because, whenever you're on a job and you have an idea, but the client might not want to see that through, or whether it's like you're with a band and the band doesn't want to do whatever it is that you suggested, like, is there a part of you that's like, maybe I should test this out, like with my own other project?
Absolutely. And I think that's one of the biggest things about musicians, in general, and any type of art, or I guess like, for jobs, it's a little different. Usually if a customer doesn't want to do something I suggest, it's because their budget.
Mm-hmm. Right.
But for like on the studio side of things, and the production side of things, absolutely. There's been plenty of times where I've been like, we should try this, type of progression or strumming style or drum pattern, and maybe they don't want to do it because they want to stick with their roots, and that's totally fine.
Yeah.
Like, we'll stick to their original idea. Everyone hears music differently and listens to music differently. It's a very subjective art, which I think is what makes it so beautiful. But at the same time, that's also what we get to feed off each other too. Like, where I might come with an idea or like, a song, and we release it the way it was, right? Somebody might listen to that and be like, oh, I really like how they did this, but I really don't like how they did this, and kind of take influence from that. And I think that's what artists do in general is like take influence from each other, and we're all kind of striving towards the same beauty, you know?
Of course, of course, of course. Which actually is a perfect segue into my next question because, of course, like I said earlier, I really do want to ask about, your perspective when it comes to working with an artist like Mars, who does something so unique and kind of avant-garde on purpose.
Yeah, so with Mars specifically, I think this is like a real testament to like he's been such a joy to work with, but also, such a challenge in the sense that like I'm also a creative. So like to work with somebody who's just oozing creativity and, musical excellence, I should say, is like it's a challenge because sometimes I'm like, I don't even want to say anything. I just want to let you cook, bro. Like just make your music and let me be, if today I'm like helping you with something, awesome. That's my time to shine. That's that divot that you need work on. Awesome. That's what I'm here for. Other days I'm totally happy being his hype guy.
Mm-hmm. Right.
He's a talented artist, and I can't wait to see, where he goes, whether it's with us in the future for however long we're working together to just in general. He's just a really talented guy.
Yeah. And so for context, for anyone who maybe missed the episode of the podcast where we had Mars Hendrick on, how would you describe his sound? Because I still struggle to put it to words.
I like that you said avant-garde because it's kind of like an avant-garde, like experimental rock, in my opinion. But then there's also like that, Latin jazz vibe to it. There's also like, there's also just like an indie rock vibe to it sometimes too, which is cool. And there's a couple songs that'll be coming out on his record that are definitely like, honestly, could have been like a Inside Out song even. And I'm like, this is wild. Plus a few instruments, of course. He likes to have his horn sections, and
there's always a little bit of a something.
No, I love it. I wish my band had more horn sections. But I think that's one of the reasons why we like working together too. Is like, just musically, we're both always like, kind of spinning in the same room with the same kind of goals.
Yeah, for sure. Which is really cool because again, y'all have such different sounds, but at the same time, like, there's kind of a shared energy there, which, kind of bonds that sort of sound together, right? Like, there's definitely, something here and something there that you're like, oh, yeah, of course they're on the same side of the, whatever it is that they're doing.
Yeah, no, for sure. And I think that, like, one thing that I love that he does, and I've learned from him that it's important to do over the past, like, I should say, like, 6-7 months is, like, he'll take these breaks and these trips where he'll like I'm shutting everything off for a few 3-4 days, and I'm gonna like dial in and really just hone in with myself and really like focus on whether he's writing a song or he's just like really getting his like just mental like level in check, whatever he's doing, like. And I love that. And sometimes it reminds me of like in the fast-paced world that I'm created for myself. Like it's something that I really liked doing. Like, I want to say in September last year, where like actually I ended up with the artwork for the record, for the way it was, where Mars was like, oh, I'm going to Vermont for a few days, and I was like, I kind of want to go away for a few days. That sounds fun. So my buddy and I, we did this treasure hunting thing, and we ended up like in these parks, and we found like a bunch of these old abandoned houses and stuff, and we found like that cool like swing and the flowers on. I was like, this is sick. And and what was cool about that is we were on a road trip, and like I don't know if we're still gonna name the record Road Trip, but that's kind of
okay.
At the time I was like everything's kind of like aligning with just all these different things I'm learning just as an adult too. It's just important to dial in, and definitely a cool thing. I think him and I like keep learning things from each other in that aspect. So definitely love working with Mars for sure.
Yeah, I mean, just from having had those couple of conversations, I could definitely see it. And I'm also really intrigued by this this idea of the road trip. But I'll let you keep your secrets for now so we can have the element of surprise.
Yeah. There's a lot of fun stories for that, for sure.
We'll have to do a part 3 of the podcast.
For sure.
So, one last Mars question then. What would you say might be maybe the biggest thing you've learned from working with Mars or just from Mars in general?
One of the biggest things I've learned from working with Mars is just like, yeah, I mean, just patience with yourself. I mean, and the guy does life coaching as well, and I feel like I probably owe him a check for like some of the stuff I've learned from him without actually taking him on as my coach. But at the same time, like, he does know a thing or two about dialing in with yourself and really achieving that mental clarity of even if it has nothing to do with any of your goals you're trying to achieve for the day, but just like literally being with yourself and like, knowing what you need to do for yourself to like really just achieve that kind of like, equilibrium.
Oh yeah. I feel like I'm still kind of pondering upon the whole, disconnect for a few days thing, just go on a trip, just really lock in, because that's something that I've kind of been trying to do for the last year. I mentioned it, I think, also on the show. I copied it from a friend who on Sundays would speak to nobody. Like, that was his, like, personal day. Like, he was just gonna, stay in, read, play video games, whatever it is that he wanted to do. That's what he was doing. If you try to reach out to him, but he just wasn't in the mood for you, he would not respond. If you ran into him, like, he'd be cordial, like, hey man, what's up? How are you? Disappear into the shadows. Batman. You didn't know if he was home or not. You had no idea anything about this man. And one day I actually asked him, and he was like, well, think 10 years ago, right? Before we had phones and Snapchat told you everyone's locations and everyone posted everything on their Instagram stories. You didn't know if someone was home. You had to go and show up and be present and be there in person. So, that's how I'm protecting my peace right now. If I want to be somewhere, I'm there in person. Otherwise, who knows where I am? And I was like, okay, well, stop being mysterious. But at the same time, I get it. And so I started trying to kind of embody that, as well as kind of flipping that into what I've been calling like YOLO trips, in which, if something's going on and I don't really know how to process it yet, I'm like, you know what, let's find a cool, productive, little creative weekend getaway, and I'll go and I'll do something new, do something different just to shake it up. And then when I get back, I feel like I'll have my ducks in a row. And it's kind of a cool way to approach life. So it's nice to know that an actual life coach is out here doing that.
Yeah, and I think it's a mixture of like physically getting away, and then also like, just like even mentally getting away. Like, I love watching TV and movies and things like that, and I'll put my phone on silent in a different room so I could really just escape and like enjoy different art I like, and some people do that with, even video games and reading a book. Like there's so many different outlets to have, and I think like something that I liked about, whether it was taking it literally or not, and like, going on a little trip or whatever, it didn't need to be that, if that's, if that makes sense. Like,
of course.
It can absolutely be just, even if it doesn't even have to be a whole getaway, it could be an hour of just, I'm shutting everything off for an hour and I'm putting myself here on this park bench, and so it's kind of like a mixture of, I think it's more just like whatever you need to do to like just reset yourself is just super important, to listen to yourself and like actually do that.
Yeah, reset your just mental state, your way of thinking, embrace, whatever it is, the movies, a book, nature, whatever it is that helps you kind of get into that zone. Like, it's good to have, I think.
Yeah, absolutely.
Man, we might all owe Mars a check for the accidental life coaching.
Yeah. No.
All right, so as our time here begins to draw to a close, of course, once again, thank you so much for coming back and speaking to us and updating us on, what you're up to. What's next? Give us some shout outs, closing remarks, statements, etc.
Yeah, no, for sure. And I'm super appreciative of you having me on, Carly. It's been a pleasure.
Of course.
I think like, band wise, we kind of went over the shows that are coming up.
Mm-hmm.
We've got another single we'll start teasing soon called Dancing with Ghosts. So definitely, if you're not already following us on Instagram, definitely that's the spot to do so. I try to stick with that as the main outlet for all the updates. As far as Black Barrel, we're releasing a lot of Mars's music. We're potentially looking for some other artists later this year to sign. Don't really know yet. Kind of just going with the flow and everything. Yeah, I mean, we've just busy, busy, busy. So excited to keep putting, keep putting art out there, I guess, is the main goal.
That's right. That's the best way to do it.
Yeah.
So I actually forgot to ask before, but we've gotten to speak to you. Just give us a quick update on everyone else in the band. We got to speak to everyone from the Inside Out together before. Just what's the quick, just like little pa.
Yeah, I mean, everyone's kind of like, in the hub above of life and all that kind of, I mean, Andy's, I think she started a new job this year and she's, working really hard, and she has a house, and she actually got engaged to her boyfriend now.
Congratulations.
Yeah. And, John is working. Him and I are usually in the studio, creating. And yeah, it's been a blast for sure.
That's awesome. All right. Well, we love to hear it. Like I said, as our time here draws to a close, thank you so much for speaking to us. You've been listening to WECS 90.1 FM, and I'm your host, Carla with a K, signing off for Podcast with a K. I think it is only right, since we're here and we got to listen to your song, now we get to listen to a song from one of your artists, being Mars Hendrick. What do you say we listen to The Jump to sign us off for the night?
That sounds fun.
I want your review on it, right? I usually get to ask the artist, what do you think about your own music? This is a very rare situation in which I get to ask, what do you think of one of your artists?
I love it. I mean, I feel like it's all of the energy in a lot of his songs on his record kind of all in one. Mm-hmm. The only thing, honestly, the song is missing is some of his Spanish singing. Other than that, it's got literally like a dash of everything that he's about, for sure.
Oh my god, that's awesome. What a great intro. But I also agree. I always feel like if an artist is bilingual, there should be just like a little element of that multicultural je ne sais quoi.
Oh yeah. We'll get a lot of that in his other songs for sure.
All right. Well, we have all of that to look forward to. Thank you so much. As we sign off for the night, thanks, chat, for hanging out with us. Thanks for asking questions. Thanks for tuning in. All of the links that you need will be in the description down below on the side, wherever it is. The Inside Out, Black Barrel Records, Mars Hendrick, etc. So, without further ado, here is The Jump.